In the wake of the Capitol insurrection, a group of congressional leaders is condemning the white supremacy and bigotry on display during the attack. The heads of the Congressional Asian Pacific American Caucus, the Congressional Black Caucus, and the Congressional Hispanic Caucus issued a joint resolution Tuesday. It calls for increased accountability and denounces any member of Congress who they say encouraged the rioters, writing in part, quote, "It's time we take white nationalist domestic extremism seriously." And that starts with calling out the way some leaders in government have empowered these groups. Baratunde Thurston is a former advisor to the Obama White House. He's the executive producer and host of the How to Citizen podcast and author of the book How to Be Black, and joins me now. Baratunde, thank you very much for joining us. Conventional wisdom is that the outcome of this impeachment trial appears to be a foregone conclusion. Most Republicans say they will not vote to convict former President Trump. So in the absence of a conviction potentially, what does justice look like?
Thank you, Elaine, for having me. Thanks, Red and Blue. Happy Black History Month. Let's start with a smile and a celebration of some of the most American of Americans in this beautiful, short, cold February month in most parts of the United States. Accountability looks like telling the truth. And whether or not certain Senate Republicans decide to fear Donald Trump more than they express their love for America by adhering to its principles and those beautiful founding documents, the rest of us, we the people, need to establish a record. So I think the trial is important. I think the attempts at accountability are important. I think there's a possibility of criminal prosecution even after all this is done. But collectively, the story we tell about what transpired on January 6, 2021, what led to it, and what did or did not happen after is really important to get right. America was attacked on January 6th. Our democracy was attacked. The People's House was attacked. And some folks are okay with that. And the rest of us need to know that that is not okay.
I'm wondering what you make of former President Trump's attorneys attempting to draw some kind of comparisons between the Capitol attack and the racial justice demonstrations that took place over the summer. What are your thoughts on that?
When you first said, what do you make of President Trump's attorneys, I was going to jump in and say not much. It seems hard for him to find qualified attorneys to take his case because so many people who would love the opportunity to defend a president of the United States, former president of the United States, would be from the best law firms and have the greatest experience and credentials. And he seems to be scraping the bottom of the barrel, not getting the very best people as he promised us so many years ago. The false equivalence being drawn is an attempt to distract us from what we all saw. We haven't seen the U.S. Capitol be stormed in violence since the British did so in the 1800s. We've never seen the Confederate flag fly in the United States Capitol. We have a United States flag. The Confederacy lost the Civil War. So there is no comparison other than to distract us from what we all saw on January 6, 2021. And look, I love the statement that the Tri-Caucus made, the Black Caucus, Hispanic Caucus, Asia Pacific America Caucus. We should easily be able to stand against overt white supremacy. What I'm waiting for is for like the Algae Caucus, the Toy Caucus, the Travel and Tourism. Every caucus in Congress should find it very easy to co-sign on repudiating explicit and overt white supremacy and the use of political violence.
So on that point, there was a lot of talk of unity during President Biden's inauguration, and you have said that it is counterproductive to simply write off the people in this country who hold racist or radical beliefs. So, Baratunde, how would you suggest that people engage those who hold vastly different beliefs?
Yeah, I would say with love and with caution and protection for your own energy and your own self. President Biden in his inaugural address said something very nuanced about unity. He said, enough of us have come together to move all of us forward. And so I want the bar for unity not to be everyone in the country agrees 100% with everyone in the country. That has never been the case. You can't find unity in a marriage by those standards, and yet people declare love for one another and work toward a shared goal and a shared life with one another. So that's the sort of approach I think we should have. And then an attempt at some empathy and some sympathy. There are some among those who've gone along with this insurrectionist president who were bamboozled into it, who were misinformed into it. They were buffeted by a very profitable industry of disinformation to encourage them and give them permission to act in this way. In some ways, they are victims too. Not all of them, but some. And so I think some of us can approach with that attitude of patience and empathy. But that work is not for every single person. There are also many of us who've been hyper exposed to violence and negative racial rhetoric, and it's not necessarily their first to-do list item to reach out and hug someone who wants to try to kill them.
Well, on your podcast, How to Citizen, you explore using the word citizen as a verb. How are you trying to reframe the thinking around what it means to be a U.S. citizen and teaching people to become more engaged?
I am trying to practice for myself what it means to be engaged beyond voting. We had an extraordinary demonstration of civic power through the November election, record-setting numbers, red and blue numbers, and that is something worth celebrating. But the work of democracy, which is people power, needs us to flex our power every day in many different ways. So what I've been trying to learn and jointly teach with this show is, what are the other ways we can show up? What does it mean to actively contribute to and shape the world you want to live in? And can we not just wallow in the bad news of the day, but also focus on the work that can be done in every day, in every way, for us to show up and actually actively claim the society for ourselves?
Well, February, as you note, is Black History Month, and we've seen you post with the hashtag Black Future Month on Twitter. Can you explain the shift in how this month is being observed?
I picked that up from somebody else. I can't even attribute it. I like the way it sounded. I know Van Jones said something about it, but I'm sure he didn't invent it. So there is a tradition of looking forward, of being able to bear the present because of a more possible future. And I think so much of this month has been about acknowledging trauma, acknowledging pain. There is so much more to Black history and certainly Black future than just a traumatic past. And so again, for myself, I don't want to just think of being Black as suffering. It's so much more than that. It's laughing and it's camping and it's snoring and it's cooking good food and it's making beautiful music and it's loving. And so the idea of Black Future Month, as I interpret it, is to paint a picture of the month we want to live in, not just the one we were granted to remember some of the sins of the past.
All right, well, Baratunde Thurston, what a pleasure. Thank you for the reminder to smile, particularly in this month of Black History Month in February. Baratunde, thank you very much.
Thank you.